What if I told you the worst thing you fear almost happened, but God stopped it before you ever knew? Michael was 37 years old. He lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Dallas, Texas. Every morning looked the same. Wake up, drink coffee, drive to work, come home, sleep, repeat. From the outside, nothing seemed unusual. But inside, Michael carried a constant burden. Fear, not loud fear, not panic, just a quiet, exhausting fear that followed him everywhere. Every night before bed, he checked the front door 3 times. He checked his bank account, checked his phone, checked the weather, checked the news, and then checked everything again. Because he believed if he stayed alert enough, nothing bad would happen. Yet despite all his efforts, he never felt safe. One rainy Tuesday evening, Michael sat alone in his living room. The television was on, but he wasn't watching. His mind was racing. What if I lose my job? What if something happens to my daughter? What if I get sick? What if everything falls apart? The questions never stopped. That night he opened an old Bible that had belonged to his grandmother. He wasn't looking for answers. He wasn't expecting anything. He simply opened it, and his eyes landed on a passage he had never truly noticed before. Psalm 121. As he read, one sentence seemed to rise off the page. The Lord will watch over your coming and going both now and forevermore. Michael stared at the words. Then he read them again and again. Something about that promise disturbed him because it challenged everything he believed. For years he had acted as if the safety of his world depended entirely on him, as if he were the watchman, as if his worrying somehow protected the people he loved. But suddenly a question appeared in his heart. What if I've been carrying a responsibility that was never mine? The thought stayed with him. Days passed, then weeks, and little by little, Michael began noticing something strange. Not dramatic miracles, not flashes of light, just ordinary moments. Moments he normally ignored. One afternoon he was running late for work. Frustrated, he stopped at a gas station. While standing in line, traffic ahead on his usual route came to a complete stop. A major accident had occurred. Had he left 5 minutes earlier, he would have been there. Another day, he almost sent an angry message during an argument. Something told him to wait, so he did. The next morning, he was grateful. The message would have destroyed a friendship. Then there was the doctor appointment he almost skipped. The small issue was caught early and treated easily. Again and again. Small moments, small delays, small interruptions. Michael started seeing a pattern. Not everything that looked like inconvenience was actually a problem. Sometimes it was protection. One Sunday morning, he sat in church listening to the pastor speak. The pastor said something Michael would never forget. He said, "Most of God's protection is invisible. We celebrate the rescues we can see, but rarely thank Him for the dangers we never knew existed." The words hit him deeply, because suddenly his life looked different. How many times had God protected him without announcement? How many disasters had never reached his door? How many wrong turns had been quietly redirected? How many prayers had been answered in ways he never recognized? For the first time in years, Michael realized something. He was exhausted because he had been trying to do God's job. He had spent years standing guard over a life that was already being watched over. That realization changed everything. Not overnight, not instantly, but steadily. When fear came, he stopped feeding it. Instead, he repeated one simple sentence. God is already watching over what I'm trying to control. When worry arrived at midnight, he repeated it. When uncertainty appeared at work, he repeated it. When bad news filled the headlines, he repeated it. And slowly, something began to happen. The fear lost its grip. The future stopped feeling like an enemy. His shoulders relaxed. His sleep returned. His smile came back. Not because life became perfect, but because he finally understood something. The foundation beneath him had never moved. God had been faithful all along, even when Michael couldn't see it, even when he doubted, even when he worried, even when he tried to carry the entire world himself. Years later, Michael would tell his daughter, "The greatest lesson I ever learned wasn't how to control life." He smiled. It was learning that I never had control in the first place and realizing God never stopped holding me anyway. So if you're listening today, Maybe this message is for you. Maybe you've been carrying burdens you were never meant to carry. Maybe you've been standing watch over a future only God can see. Maybe you're exhausted because you've been trying to protect what God is already protecting. If that's you, remember this promise.